Let's do this.
Oh, hello.
Hi,
How
yes!
exciting.
We're doing it, we're live. Amazing. Okay, we'll just give it a couple of minutes. Wait for people to join. I don't know if you can hear that I live in the roof and the rain is just crazy right now. I've got like I might get some like ASMR vibes going.
I can just hear my rain, so
Yeah,
it's just
it's
raining
so
everywhere, I think,
loud.
now.
I did a little trial video and was like, wow, you can really hear the rain. It's going from the side. It's absolutely
It
mad.
adds to the atmosphere. Rain is very soothing, so,
It is, I know. It is really, but like, we're going away this weekend and we're staying with friends first down in Dorset. And
Mm.
my friend sent me a little video of just this like river going down the
Oh,
road.
well.
And I was like, she was like, make sure you bring your waterproof. And I was like, is that your house? And it's her partner's parents' house. But yeah, she was like, it's been crazy.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, I know. I think it's going to get better though. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed Storm
Hope so.
Sandy is going away. Okay, well, we've got some people joining us. Oh, my mum's here. Hi, mum.
Hi, Mum.
Priti is here from Woodfield. That's great. Fabulous. Okay. I'll just wave at people as they come in. Okay, well, yeah, let's make a start. And as people join, that's fine. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this live this evening. My name is Rosanna. If you've never seen me before, hello. And I volunteer with the Woodfield Pavilion. And if you've never heard of us, we are a community centre based on Tooting Common in South London. And the pavilion is actually run by the Woodfield Project charity, and I'm actually a trustee of that charity as well. And our aim is to develop the pavilion as a centre for local communities and local schools to share in culture, health and well-being, and to champion sustainability and the natural environment of the Tooting Commons as well. I've been volunteering with Woodfield since the beginning of the year, and I started by running a monthly sewing session, and I then started running it every 2 weeks during lockdown, which was really fun. And something else we started doing during lockdown was a live cook along. And I know Priti's here in watching us, and she started this live cook along, and where chefs literally from across the globe would go on live and show us how to make an amazing dish. And I was like, I'd quite like to do something like that for stitching, and to have some sort of like, sewing stitch along series, which brings us to what we're doing tonight, and our first stitch along Instagram live with the lovely Emily Rowan. Yay!
Yay. Hello.
Yes. So, Emily, I've actually been following you on social media for quite a while. I can't even remember how long I've been following you. And as somebody who struggles with mental health issues myself, I really love and admire your championing of crafting and particularly embroidery. So embroidery is what I do as well, for managing mental health.
Mm.
And that's something we'll come to a little bit later and chat more about. But first, it would be great if you could just tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, your work, your background, so we can get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, well, I'm Emily. I'm an embroidery artist, and I do commissions and custom orders and things, but mostly I like to focus on embroidery and mental health, like how to use embroidery for well-being, crafters therapy through embroidery kits and patterns that people can purchase, and some what I call stitch therapy workshops, and recently launched a subscription box. So I'm just all about what I like to call stitch therapy and sharing it with other people how it can help.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did you get started with embroidery? Is it something you've been doing for a while?
Yeah, I think I was taught, and my mom taught me to cross stitch when I was like growing up, and just throughout school, I really like took to textiles and the arts. Like
Mm.
I was very into like my GCSEs were like art, graphics, textiles, all the creative stuff, all the designy
Yeah.
stuff. And did other bits and pieces, like went between the few. I've got a degree in photography, but for one of my
Okay.
modules, I was stitching onto photographs, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I just always came back to embroidery,
Yeah.
and it was through. I've had mental health issues probably my whole adult life, but it was in 2017, I think, that I really started to use embroidery to help manage my mental health.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Mm.
And what or who inspires you and your work? You said you stitch into photographs. Is there any specific photographs you stitch into? Yeah, what do you think about when you're making, or what sort of inspires you to make a piece?
Mm. I'm actually probably mostly inspired by words, like
Yeah.
music and books and podcasts. I grew up, my dad's a big music fan, so I kind of grew up listening to music, and in my teenage years I was really into music, and song lyrics were the first things that I started stitching. When I was going through
Mm.
this kind of mental health stuff, I found some lyrics that I resonated with, and I don't know what it was. I wanted to get them out of me and express them somehow, and I've always been creative, so it's kind of merging the two. But I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah,
constantly just inspired by, like if I'm listening to a podcast and someone says something like something that I really like, I'm like, oh, I'll write that down. I've got lists like on my phone and in a notebook, just quotes and lines and sentences that I hear now and then. I write them down, and then I often come back to them later and adapt them or use them in some way. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
noticed that in your work, that
Mm,
predominantly it features text rather than
mm,
images.
mm,
And I myself like to talk about sort of like an embodied sense of making. So I feel like I've stitched words before. I normally do
mm,
images, but I feel like I have stitched words before where it's almost like you want to, yeah, as you say, get them out of you, but in a way that you're sort of embodying what you're saying on that, with what you're making in that
mm.
piece. I find that really interesting, and sort of like almost your values and your beliefs on a piece. You're actually stitching it, and it's not just the
Yeah.
same as saying it. And it's
Mm,
something you can then look at as well. If it's for you, you can just have this piece that you've made and look at
mm.
it, and it means something to you. Um, so, why, in general, is being creative important to you? Like, why is your practice important to you?
I think I'm just like to my core, I'm a creative person, and it's how I express myself. Like I said, all through school I did it, and after school, and like if I do something creative like most days, even if it's just a bit of writing or sewing or anything. If I go too long without doing something creative, then I just don't feel like myself. It
Yeah,
helps
yeah, yeah,
me, with my well-being.
yeah,
Brings me back to myself. Find it very
yeah,
grounding.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And do you
best way
do
to
any?
express yourself.
Yeah. And do you do anything, like, do you have a specific sort of way of making? Like, do you have a specific spot in your house? Do you watch TV? Do you listen to music? Like, do you what's your environment like? Do you find that affects what you make, and that's important as well?
Yeah, I've got like a little workspace desk area in my house. I've got lots of plants, which help,
Oh,
with
yeah,
the whole
lovely.
calming, cool vibe.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I generally when I'm when I design stuff, I first sketch it out on paper, and I like to listen to podcasts when I'm doing that. Um, Podcasts or audiobooks. Um, I just find the two
That's
merge together really
interesting. So
well.
you can concentrate on both of them while you're doing it, because some people can't.
Mm.
They just
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
can't.
Well, I find that if
Interesting.
I'm doing anything like written or wordy or work on a website or writing or anything, I can't listen to anything that has words. Like I can't listen to podcasts because it just won't go in. But when I'm drawing or sewing, um, yeah, I think the two kind of interact with each other. Like having both, I can concentrate on both. They help the other one, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah, it
It
does.
doesn't. I don't always listen to podcasts about mental health, or creativity, although I do listen to those sometimes. It can just be anything like business podcasts or just an audiobook. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Nice. And so has your practice evolved or changed in any way since the lockdown? Have you been doing any? I realise stitch therapy has probably come out of that, but has it changed in any way what you've been doing or how you've been working or anything?
Well, I found that at the start of lockdown, I think like a lot of people had a bit of a crisis, and I was just, like, what is going on? Oh my God. And like my business. So I was getting a lot of, I started off the year really well with commissions, and then that obviously kind of dropped off quite quickly. And I think I like almost lost my way with embroidery a bit for the first time since I've started doing it in the last few years. And I work in a supermarket as my day job, and I just kind of like dived into that. But then very soon I realized, hang on, I'm not doing anything creative, and my mental health isn't in a great place. I need to get back to this. So and then obviously remembered that, oh yeah, like my whole thing is stitch therapy. Like I need to practice what I preach. I do what I like to do I do kind of like freehand stuff, just like lines and shapes. I find them really soothing. Like anything circular, like it's just, there's something about circles. I find them they're quite infinite and soothing, and like that's just freehand. So
oh wow,
I found myself a lot over the last kind of few months just picking something up, and like not wording, which is funny because what we've picked up and we've talked about so far is that I will normally design a piece around wording. Like the wording is the first bit, and then I use the colours and the lines and the shapes and whatever out of the wording. But more in the last few months I've been focusing more on just lines and patterns, I guess, and just really getting lost in the embroidery, and it's become a lot more about not about stitching a design, but the actual process in itself. Like the second half of last year is when I started teaching my stitch therapy workshops, and the design I use for that has no wording. It's just different lines and patterns. They're like specific techniques that I've found to stitch that are particularly therapeutic, and I was teaching that, and I designed that piece to teach that to others. But I feel like since lockdown I've really started to use those practices myself for maybe the first time.
Yeah. And do you find it easy to practice what you preach sometimes, or do you find it like I mean, I relate to what you're saying about I got really disenchanted with my own work as well, actually, during quarantine. And I don't know if you felt this, but there's sort of like I've never even I don't have a shop or anything yet, but I even still felt this pressure to be like, you've got loads of time, the sort of myth of having loads of time during quarantine, even though we're having to deal with a pandemic, and feeling this pressure to monetize something you're enjoying. And like embroidery I just picked up as a hobby, and because I did art at university as well. But once you leave university, you don't have the studio space, you don't have the resources that you had then. So it's just like, what am I going to do now? So that's why I picked up embroidery, just, to be creative, as you're saying. But even through quarantine, I was just like, right, what am I doing with this? Where is this going? Like a relationship, like what's the next step? And I started to get really I stopped making as well. And I had to just completely stop what I was doing and just think of a completely new idea that I'd never done before. And I was just like, I'm not going to think about where it's going to go. I'm just going to do it and change path. And then actually that got me back on track again. So I sort of, I really relate to what you're saying with the patterns. That sounds like you went through a similar thing as well, where you're just like, what am I actually doing here? But you picked up embroidery for enjoyment, and that's the most important part. So with your workshops, that sounds really interesting. Have you done any virtually since lockdown? And are they going to be, I'm guessing they're going to be part of the stitch therapy subscription as well? Like, what do you enjoy about teaching? What do you focus on in your workshops? What people expect from those?
I intended to do some online workshops at the start of lockdown. I was like, I want to give back. I want to do what I can. I want to give something to people that will help them. And then I had my own kind of crisis of what is going on. And I threw myself into my day job. So I haven't done any online workshops, but as part of Stitch Therapy Club, which is the new kind of subscription box come membership that I'm launching. A part of that will be daily stitching. So there's where is it? It's probably good, it's backwards, but this is my first design for it. So but there'll be a daily video each day for each different stitch. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so like 20 minutes, half an hour, just showing people how to do the stitch. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed the workshops. I was doing them from like July to October, I think, last year.
yeah.
And it's just sharing this idea of crafters therapy and embroidery, and like seeing people come to the workshops. You know, when people are, I don't know if you've ever done any. I know you say you've done some virtual ones. I don't know if you've done any like in real life, but people kind of turn up and they're kind of a bit nervous and a bit like, oh, there's new people and oh, what's this going to be like? And then you sort of, you know, as the workshop leader, you have to kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
cultivate this fun time. Um,
Yeah.
you see people get into it and it clicks with them, and you show them how to do the stitch, and they're like, oh yeah, this is really relaxing. And
Mm.
when you see it click with people, that's what I love about the workshops.
Yeah.
And I think like art therapy is obviously like a professional practice, but being creative as a form of therapy and relaxation and well-being in general, I think is really underutilized, and it's just not
Mm.
something that people necessarily think of straight away.
Yeah.
So I just love sharing that with people and seeing it click.
Yeah.
So,
And it's
yeah,
a
that's
sense of community as well, I suppose, because that's what I
mm,
get from your, you know, starting this Stitch Therapy Club. It's not, you know, just a subscription where someone gets something in just, you know, in the post every month. It's more than that. It's creating space for people to come together to talk about therapy through stitching, and to actually create a community, which I think is really great. And yeah, tell us more about this. What else can people expect? Because you've done loads. It's so exciting. You've got
Oh,
loads.
thanks.
Tell us about
Yes,
it.
I've not really thought of like a snappy like subscription box
Elevator
membership
pitch.
community, like just like
It's okay,
general
don't
stuff.
worry.
It's all of that. Yeah, so there's going to be a monthly embroidery design. This first one is if you have an anxious heart, make art. So there'll be a monthly
Yeah.
design, and you can subscribe either for a kit. So I send you everything you need in a box in the post, and you can stitch it, or you can subscribe to the pattern where you can download the like paper design and you use your own materials to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll be in the kit. There'll be stitch guides and like how to do each stitch. But then there's a Facebook group, and I will be going live in the Facebook group. I think it's about 15. I'm going to do it's over 3 weeks, so 5 days a week, 20 to 30 minutes a day of how to do a different stitch. And then, you know, as part of the Facebook group, I'll be posting in there kind of prompts to promote like thinking about the theme. The theme for the first month is crafters therapy, is like a general introduction of all this stuff. So I'll be posting in there and hopefully getting people to think. And
Yeah.
one of the things I really like about doing the workshop is that because it's called Stitch Therapy, and I talk about, you know, in the workshop listing, I talk a lot about mental health. So it's nice. I think people would come to the workshops knowing that it wasn't just embroidery, it was about mental health. And as the workshop went on, I'd find that people would start opening up about their own experiences, which I think is really amazing, considering that like some people would come with a friend, but most people would come to the workshop on their own. Just kind of talking about, but also very different things that you've been through. I'm hoping that would be lovely. And as well, each month there's going to be
connection, I think.
Are you okay? You keep sort of slightly freezing. Is it you or me? I'll carry on.
Yeah,
Rosanna has frozen
it's
on
like
my
you
phone.
never know.
No, you don't. It is. But I'm going to keep talking. You've kind of frozen a bit in and out, so I'll just keep going. Kit and Facebook group, and which will be, it won't involve any embroidery. It's just going to be about the theme. So the first theme is crafters therapy. So I will just talk more about how we can use crafters therapy, like resources that I found useful, books that I've read, and hopefully it can be interactive and people can, yeah, just discuss more on what we've touched on in the Facebook group, I guess, but on like a group call together. So
Yeah, that's
that's
amazing.
it, I guess. Thanks.
And
I hope so.
yeah, no, it is. It's fabulous. And that's, yeah, it's not just you. It's not just you lecturing or teaching people. It's because that's why I love workshops as well, because it's effectively you learn off other people, and it's much more of a two-way process that way. That's what I try and do at Woodfield as well, where it's just like, if people want to bring their own skill to the table, they totally can. So each month is going to have a theme.
Yeah. So there'll be something, like, because I want it to be not just about embroidery, but about mental health as well. So there'll be a slightly different thing to do with well-being or mental health or whatever. And the embroidery, like the wording in the embroidery will be based from that theme. And then everything we'll discuss will be on that as well.
Amazing. That sounds great. So how can people sign up for it if someone wants to become a member of the Stitch Therapy Club?
If you go to our website, which is emilyrowanstudio.com, there's a link in my bio if you want to click through from here, and all the information's there and you can sign up there.
Great. Fabulous. I will add it into the info on this live as well, as long as hopefully my phone doesn't crash. So I'm trying to screen record it as well. Just in case my phone throws a wobbly.
I don't know if it was me, and I lost you for a bit.
It always happens. It's just classic, technology. I think we're all getting used to it now. Instagram Live. Instagram Live is particular. I think it's okay. Hopefully.
Are you there? Am I there?
No,
I'm not sure.
Well, I meant to say as well, if any viewers have any, please put them in the comments. I was meant to say that at the beginning, but forgot. So, and how are you finding the moment? Like, how are you getting lots of sign-ups and interest in it?
I'm just anything from you. I'm getting bits that's cutting in and out. I can't make up what you're saying.
No, that's okay. Am I back now? Am I back? Have I gone? Am I back?
You're kind of in and out. Am I here? In the comments, can you type who is breaking up so that we kind of, I feel like it would be useful to know who's got the dodgy internet.
Oh yeah, I've gone into my 4G.
Oh, I feel like if one of us freezes, everyone can just like carry on saying something.
No.
It seems to be better now. I seem to have you back.
Okay, I've just gone onto my 4G. It's probably my Wi-Fi.
And this classic weather as well.
I know. Yes, I know. I'm going to blame the weather for it. It's the weather interfering with the connection.
We're both back, apparently.
Both of us. Okay, we're back. I'll go back on to screen record as well. Yes, I was saying, if in case nobody heard, if anybody has, I'm the worst person apparently. Sorry. If anybody has any questions for Emily, please put them in the chat, and I can relay them. But yes, I can't remember. Did you say that people can find out with the link in your bio? Yeah, and I was saying that I'll put it in the details for this live as well, that people can find out more. That's why I was trying to screen record it in case my phone decides to break up. But when is the first workshop going to be? I know that it launched on the 20th of August.
Yeah.
When are the first sort of kits going out and Facebook group and things like that?
people have got until the end of the day on the 1st, which is next Tuesday, to sign up. And then from then I'll start sending the kits out, and we start stitching on the 10th.
On the
So
10th. Amazing.
yes, the Facebook group is being made at the moment. So I'm hoping to get people in there like by the end of this week, so we can like, chat and get to know each other before we start stitching.
But I'm guessing people can sign up sort of as and when they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are gonna, like, the first one, I think the deadline each month is gonna be the 1st, but you can sign up whenever. But
amazing.
if you sign up after the 1st, you'll get the next month.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that sounds great. And are the subscriptions, is it yearly?
Not yet. I haven't. It's just monthly at the moment, and you can just, you can sign up as a one-off, or you can sign up monthly. But yeah, I'll be setting up like 3 months, 6 months, year month.
Amazing.
Year month, year long.
Year month. That's what it feels like. Year months is what
good old year month
right now. Yeah, year months is definitely a quarantine thing, I feel like.
Yes, definitely. 2020, the year month.
The year month. Oh, yes, definitely. That's it. You've coined it. Okay, we have a question from Shaz. Hi, Shaz. What are the price points for subscriptions?
So the kit subscription is £35 a month, or you can buy it as a one-off for £40. And the pattern is £25 a month, along with the year month. The pattern is £25 a month, and it's £28.50 for the one-off.
Amazing. And have you set all of this up yourself as well? Is it all you?
Yeah, it's all me.
Wow.
It's all me. I've done the website. I've designed everything. Yeah, it's me.
That's amazing. No, it's really great. It's really great.
Sort of make it up as you go along. It's I love the idea. I'm so passionate about the idea, and I just know that you can kind of like work the rest of it out. Like I've got to design PDF so that I can send the PDF to people. I've done it before, but not for a while. But that doesn't bother me. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And are these skills that you learn, like the design skills at uni, or is that something that you've sort of just learned on the fly since leaving?
Yeah, a bit of both. I think on the fly. Like I made a website when I was at uni. I've never done that before at all. But yeah, just myself, and just made it up. And I think when you've got a creative eye, you can pick up sort of skills of design, and you have a bit more, you automatically know what looks good in design, I guess, and what works.
Yeah. And what feels right for you, and what you want to say to people and things like that. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, it's your baby. No, that's really impressive. I think that's amazing. And how long have you have had this idea for? Like, when did it spark? Is it literally since quarantine, or have you thought about I want to make a club for this?
I've had the idea for a while. Like the whole stitch therapy thing. I've got kits that you can just buy already, and I think I launched them at the end of 2018. And probably for about a year I've had the idea of a subscription box. Like, there are other people that do embroidery subscription boxes, and I've always thought it'd be a cool idea, but it's this whole
That's my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'm going to leave it and say buzz again.
I think, I've had the idea for about a year, and you kind of talk yourself out of it. Self-doubt sinks in, and it's this whole thing about practicing what I preach as well. Like, you not advise, but I talk a lot on my Instagram about mental health and well-being, and just overcoming the daily battles that you have in your head. And so I talk about all this stuff, but it's the thing about how a lot of people say they can dish out the advice, but they can't take their own advice. So it was about getting over myself, I guess. But I think once coronavirus and lockdown started, I really did feel like there was a need for this kind of thing. People are at home, and we don't really know what's going on, and everyone needs an outlet. And with winter coming up as well, more people are at home just in general, and people look for crafts to do in the winter anyway. And I just think that I'm really passionate about encouraging people to take a little bit of time out for themselves each day to just for them. Like, it's hard to find time for yourself, but it's relaxing, it's therapeutic, it's creative. There's so many benefits to, 20 minutes or half an hour a day. I'm saying that it can take you to stitch this design, and we should take that time.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you find it balances, like, with your day job, for example? Like, how do you sort of balance the two? Is this something that, ideally you would want to do full time, for example?
I'd love to.
Yeah,
I just work.
An obvious question.
I never want to leave my day job ever. No. No, I work part time at the day job, and so I just fit it around that. And then, like, I get commissions as well, so sometimes it's kind of really busy, but then other times I have time to work on stitch therapy. I think I got to the point where I was getting a lot of commissions and I wasn't getting the time to work on the stitch therapy side, which is what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
So when lockdown started, I think, and then I had my crisis of who am I, what is my creativity, what am I doing, and then I kind of got out of that, and and then I was like, no, do you know what? We need this. People need this, so I need to get on it. And so I've taken a step back from the commissions, and I'm focusing mostly now on stitch therapy. So I would love to do it full time. Love. So we hope and we dream.
Yeah, I know. Yes, same. And I mean, like, something I also really love about you is that you are so open on your on your Instagram about like what you're going through that day, and your mental health and things like that, which as well, I think, not just having the creativity there for managing mental health, but it's actually allowing people to maybe open up about it a bit as well, like what you were saying with the workshops, as an outlet for people to actually that aren't necessarily open or as confident to talk about it, feel more confident and not feel so isolated and alone, which I can imagine has just been exacerbated during quarantine. It just is. So that's something else I think is great about it, and the sort of community aspect of it, community crafting.
Yes. Well, I was in denial about my mental health for a long time, and like when I first started feeling stuff, I didn't really know what mental health was, because it wasn't as talked about 10-15 years ago as it is now. And it was 2017 where I kind of, end of 2016, start of 2017, where I was like, I was talking to a friend and she was like, you know what, you need to do something. This is happening. You need to do something about it. And I went to the doctors and started antidepressants and tried to get therapy and all this stuff. But maybe the one thing that really helped the most was hearing the accounts of others, of people that had gone through it, whether it was through books or podcasts or people online. When you hear other people going through stuff, you can kind of other people can put into words what you can't manage yourself, and you kind of realize you're not alone. It's not just you. And if people can pinpoint, they just talk about what they've been going through, but they can pinpoint exactly what you're also going through, and you just realize there's a way out, or there's things that you can do. Just on Instagram in general, I kind of realized that my favorite accounts were the ones that were quite active on stories and that would just talk about their day. So I kind of just combined the two, and I really feel like if you are able to talk about these things, then you almost have a responsibility to. Like, I'm kind of confident talking on camera, it's fine. I'm quite enjoy writing and pouring my heart out. So I almost feel like a responsibility to do that for people that can't. So that's very important to me, being open and hopefully encouraging
also like, and I was also thinking, like, people, whilst being sort of open and letting themselves be vulnerable, they're also able to make something beautiful out of it, from this sort of dark place, or these emotions that they're feeling. through through crafting and through your stitch therapy club, that's beautiful, and also positive to do, you know, whatever they want with it, to have it in their house to look at every day. I've got pieces like that where you're just sort of like, yeah, I made that, and it's reminding you of something. And
definitely.
it's not just being able to talk about it. It's like, again, as I was saying, you're like embodying it in something that you're making, and getting to learn new skills and meeting new people and things like that. I think it's really important, as well. And yeah, I agree with you. I try and be the same, and be open about, you know, mine specifically is anxiety, and I've been medicated for it for a long time, like over 10 years. So I try and be as open about it as possible, and very much want to champion arts and crafts as a way of managing mental health, because unfortunately so much funding is being cut at the moment. So having things like this where people can subscribe monthly and sign up to a Facebook group, and it's more accessible for people as well. I think that's the other thing, is that a lot of the arts can sometimes seem really inaccessible, and I think sometimes I get people with coming to workshops, and they're, as you say, they're nervous because they're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't know whether I should be telling them, but I always tell them that embroidery is actually really easy.
Yeah.
It is. You know,
it's easier
like,
than it looks.
That's amazing, and I'm like, it's really easy. I only use 2 stitches. You know, literally, I'm like, I use back stitch and satin stitch. That's all you need. Like, you can make something really beautiful out of, you know, and if it looks good to you, then it doesn't matter either.
Stitches always look a lot more complicated than they actually are.
Yeah. I particularly the one on the if you have an anxious heart make art, the sort of the flower stitches. I think it's stem stitch, is it? That one I used to, before I learned how to do it. I was
not these.
So but they're I thought they were really complicated to do, but they're actually
woven wheel stitch. Yeah, you're just weaving in and out. Yeah.
So I'm always like, no, it looks inaccessible. I think sometimes people are like, oh my God, like I'll never be able to make something like that. But actually it's important to have, rather than just someone receiving something in the post and being like, there you go, it's actually making a group out of it, and a community where people can talk about their struggles, not just with making the piece, but with whatever they're going through. So I think it's fabulous. And Shaz is asking if we can see the piece again.
Yeah,
I'm going to use the photo you sent me of it as the cover photo for
it's not in focus, and it's but yeah. I just wanted to go back to something that. Thank you. I just wanted to go back to something that you said about how it can be, like, funding has been cut and how it can be hard to get, like, access mental health services. That is the like the sole reason I kind of got into embroidery as a therapeutic thing. Like I said, in 2017, like, I started taking antidepressants, and I went on a waiting list for CBT through the NHS. And, you know, we all love the NHS, but it's not great for underfunding reasons and a whole host of other stuff. And after waiting weeks, I eventually got the CBT, and I had to travel an hour to get there, and the appointments were only half an hour long, which just was so brief. And I actually I ended up not really gelling with my therapist practitioner. And but through my day job that's connected to a charity, I actually managed to get some counselling, and that really helped. But yeah, I've the two things that really helped me with my mental health is, like I said earlier, the accounts of others, books and people online, and then embroidery. And embroidery really helped lift me out of a really, really, really bad patch, and it has continuously over and over again. I think like depression and anxiety in particular, which are, you know, two things that a lot of people go through. I find that embroidery, it helps kind of to focus the mind and distract your brain from, like, the bad negative thoughts, but it's not too much that it becomes overwhelming. And with the depression, like you were saying, like, you're making something beautiful, something. I realized this in 2014, which is when I really first got into embroidery because I needed to make something, because I knew making things made me feel good. And it kind of, I was making, like, stitching song lyrics, like I said, that I resonated with, and it kind of really hit me that, wow, like, I actually do have something to offer. And not offer as in, like, I can make embroidery and whatever, but it was like, by putting like a piece of me out into the world, that was me offering the world something.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess it's that kind of achievement and accomplishment. Like, it can be something simple, whether you're just like stitching a line, or you're stitching a word, or you're stitching, you know, a simple design that someone else has made. If you're making something, then it kind of reminds you that you can do things, because obviously depression is a lot about, you end up feeling so helpless and worthless. But that's how I started using embroidery for mental health, as my own experience and frustrations at not getting the help that I needed from the people that are supposed to help you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I had the same experience as well, actually. But yeah, not being able to get the help, and then not, once you get the help, not actually gelling with your counselor or whatever. I've had that same experience. And someone's left a comment: it makes me so sad about the cuts. The issue isn't mental health awareness as much anymore. The bigger issue is lack of services once people ask for help. Yeah, totally. There's
true.
oversubscriptions of and waiting times, everything. And the other thing I was thinking of as well, it's like, as you mentioned, the time, it's only half an hour long, the appointment. But also, for me, I had the experience of, you have like 6 weeks. And I think whilst I understand that they can only give you sort of 6 weeks of appointments or whatever it is, mental health doesn't work like that. It's not a ladder that you climb and you're like, once you get to the top, you're fine and you never need help anymore. It's like this, it's a continuous wave. It's a continuous learning curve throughout your life. And I think something like, Stitch Therapy Club, having these sorts of communities and these groups, which doesn't put a time limit on, after this month, bye. See, like, it's not like that. It's like, it's creating a group where people can, that they know that they can go somewhere if they need it. It's not like you've got a time limit to sort your problems out. It's a continuous thing that people can rely on and meet new people and things like that, which I think is really important, because that's certainly something I struggled with quite a lot. And I've done group therapy as well, because, like, I sort of wasn't I wasn't deemed sort of ill enough to get one-to-one help, so I was given
that old chestnut.
Given group therapy, which lasted, probably, it was something like 6 weeks or whatever, and then you get a handbook and it's like, goodbye.
6 weeks and you're off. It's why I really advocate for, I call it kind of DIY therapy. Like, no one can, like, give themselves therapy, but there are things that we can do to help our mental health and just, like, maintain well-being. There are things that we can do more DIY, like crafting, like embroidery, and that is, that's what I really want to give to the world, to people.
And embroidery as well, I always try and tell people it's really cheap as well. It can be anyway, but it can be expensive, but it's really the most expensive thing is the hoop, which is, like, depending on the size, could be £3 or whatever, but it's actually relatively cheap and you can do a lot with it.
Cheaper than painting. And I like it because you can kind of pick up and put it in your bag. You can take it with you. Like, you can do it on the tube. You could go for a walk in the park and sit on a bench and do it. You can do it while you're commuting. It's very the word has lost me, but
transportable.
Something like that.
I know, I put it on my packing list. I'm going away next week and I was like, need to put embroidery on my packing list. I don't want to forget that.
Very important.
And I think we should normalize that more, like, I used to commute used to commute with a lady because we don't do that anymore, with a lady who does knitting. I used to see her all the time. I was knitting on the train, but it was still sort of like, oh, you know, you still are like,
Mm.
oh, she's knitting, but it's like it's no different from reading a book. She's just sat there
Mm.
knitting. I think we
So
need
that
to
was something,
normalize that. Normalize.
definitely.
Um,
Crafting on public transport.
yes.
That was something.
Normalize outside crafting. I don't know what it would be, but yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's
something
not just
that
in
I
your
really
house.
remember from my like own journey, mental health journey, is that when I in 2017 when I first started getting to grips with my mental health and using embroidery, I wouldn't take it out of the house. I wouldn't take out the house. I wouldn't tell anyone that I started doing embroidery. Like it was
Oh,
very
wow.
personal and like it was very to me like to talk like this would just be like unthinkable. Like it was my thing that helped me and I've held it very close. Um, and it had occurred to me like, do you know what, doing this on the tube or the bus would be kind of it's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember vividly the first time I told someone at my day job that I do a lot of embroidery, and it wasn't anyone that I was particularly friendly with. It was just someone I managed to get it into just general chit chat conversation with kind of a fairly random person, and I was like, "Wow, I can talk about this," and
Yeah.
it's increasing your confidence. And then slowly but surely, I brought it out on an empty tube, and then I brought it out on a packed tube, and I think it's all about building confidence
Yeah.
and mental health as well. You are very insular. You're very like it's hard to reach out. It's hard to talk about it. Um, so just as an example of like kind of growth and the
Yes.
journey, I always
Yeah.
think back to embroidery and how secretive it was compared to now, where I'm like,
Yeah.
here's my embroidery.
Everyone do embroidery.
Yes.
And a whole army of embroiderers. That's always my dream.
Yes.
So yeah, I
Yes.
need to do that. When eventually, if I ever get back on the tube, I need to do my embroidery on the tube to
Mm.
normalize public crafting, whatever it would be. I think that would be a great thing. And I don't know whether this is a wider conversation, not for tonight, but whether it has something also to do with crafting as being sort of lesser than art, but also which I don't agree with, and also like a woman's thing, you know, sort of more of a domestic
Woman's
thing that
work.
you do at home, and that like, you know, oh, you just do that, you know, no one cares about that. You just do that because, you know, you don't have anything else to do or something. You know what I mean? Like the sort of domesticity of crafting as well.
It's almost like
oh, why would I take this outside my house? Like,
and for a long time it was a granny's thing.
yes,
I feel like that's maybe gone a bit, but yeah, it's definitely like a woman's thing. It's something you do at home. It's not something you shout about. It's not as cool or as sophisticated as art, but
yeah,
it's much of the same for me. Like I could have a concept and paint a big picture or paint a big canvas, or I could stitch onto the canvas.
yeah.
I mean, craft and art is slightly different, but yeah, we know what we're saying.
Yeah. It's definitely an art form. I feel very strongly about that as craft as an art form. And yeah, I always, like, when I say embroidery to people, I think immediately in their head is like, yeah, a sort of lady in waiting or something stitching a corner, like, or yeah, do you know what I mean? Just sort of like, oh, you're doing that, you know, as just something pretty and nice. That's why personally I try and make my embroidery a bit weird. One of the reasons why, because it's like, no, I mean, it can be pretty, but also can be a bit weird.
There's some people doing great stuff out there with embroidery.
Yeah. Craft is such a good vehicle for conversation. Yeah, it is surprising who and what crafts people do. My boyfriend is trying glass blowing and chainsaw carving. I've never even heard of chainsaw carving.
I fancy a bit of chainsaw carving. I don't know what it is, but it sounds exciting.
That sounds so fun. Like, why?
That sounds like a good outlet for like
it does actually.
anger, emotion, like we both do that at the same time.
That sounds fantastic.
But yeah, it's true. I think there's something about using your hands and being physical to make something. Like obviously sports is physical, but that's different. If you're physically making something, whether it's embroidery or glass blowing or making a cake or chainsaw carving, it's there's something about using your hands to make something, I think.
Yeah, and also you mentioned like cake making, and my mum, she's might be still on here, but she's
My mum was here too.
Yeah, mums. She's a really keen gardener. Her garden is a work of art, and she always says I'm not creative, and I'm like, yes, you are. Like, look at what
I hate when
you've
people say they're not
made.
creative. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very big on like everybody can be creative. It's like, yeah, from cooking to gardening or whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be seen as something arty that we learn in school. I think there's a lot of unlearning. I had to do a lot of unlearning from stuff that I was sort of not necessarily taught formally, but you sort of pick up at school. And kids not thinking that they're any good at art because they can't draw like a realistic portrait of someone. I feel very strongly about that as well. It's like,
well, art is seen as lesser to begin with. In school, it's seen as lesser. That's my mum with the heart, eyes, and Reggie.
Oh, hi, Reggie.
Art is seen as lesser, and then if you are one of the people that is seen to be good at art, it's very subjective, and it's hard to grade someone on art because it's subjective, and it's as much about the process as it is about the end product. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I talk a lot about. So when I do these like freehand pieces that are just lines, like that it looks very pretty, and I'm aware it looks pretty, and I could put it on my wall. But when I look at that, I think, oh, that's something that I made when I was feeling really quite down, but I managed to pick it up, and it looks quite fancy, and it's different colours, but it's just one circle inside another circle of one stitch. I forgot where I was going with that, but
what were we talking about?
Completely gone.
We were talking about sort of hierarchies of art and things like
the process. I was talking about the process.
Yeah, the process.
Yeah, so I look at that, and it's the lines, the circles itself as a therapeutic aspect. So I look at that and think, I made that when I was feeling less than myself. Yeah. So if I can do that, I can do anything. Yeah, that's what exactly. I try and take. That's what I try and take.
Yeah. Yes, process and feeling flow, being in that zone is so good for the soul. I completely agree as well. Like it's just, and actually, interestingly, I remember someone asked me in one of the workshops, because I think when you first start, it's hard to like get exactly where the needle has to come up from the back. And she sort of said to me, like, does this get easier as you go along? And I was like, yeah, it does with practice. And you sort of get to the point where it's almost like autopilot as well, because I just do a lot of satin stitch. I do a lot of satin stitch to fill in, and it's just like, but I think it's that repetition, and that I don't like change. So as a person, and that repetition, it's like actually really nice, because you sort of zone out, and then you're like, but you're making something with your hands, so it's distraction, but sort of like meaningful distraction in that way, if that makes sense.
The repetition is relaxing. That's why people like crochet and knitting, because it's just the same. I've not crocheted or knitted for about 20 years, but I know it's just repetitive stitching, isn't it? But I like embroidery because it can be repetitive, but you also get a lot of there's a lot more scope to illustrate it and create something a bit more than a pattern, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up, I think, as well, just to like, I can create an image with it, rather than, my mum does a lot of knitting and crochet, and it looks beautiful, but I wanted to sort of make an image, I guess. I think that's why I picked it up. I can't really remember. I was trying to think when I was coming up with questions. I was like, why did I pick up embroidery specifically? But Shaz, I don't like change, classic Virgo. Yeah.
Yes. Repetitive motion is very soothing. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's very therapeutic. Wow, we've nearly chatted for an hour.
I was looking at the time. I could go on. This is my first ever Instagram live, and I've very much enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. This is my first live interviewing someone, so I hope it was okay.
No, it was really good. I feel like our conversation's really flowed, and we've said some good things. So
yeah, nice. Well, thank you, everyone. If anyone has any last questions, please do put them in the chat now.
Or you can, if you've got any questions for me specifically, you can DM me anytime, and I'll tag you, Rosanna, so you can share it on Woodfield Pavilion and whatever if you like.
Yes, amazing. That would be fab.
And can people watch this back? It's going to be saved to your feed and whatnot.
Yes, I'm really hoping so. I really hope my phone does not crash. I was trying to screen record, but had to turn all of my Wi-Fi off So I couldn't screen record it, annoyingly. So I'm praying that it won't crash. Fingers crossed. But yeah, it will cut out after an hour anyway. So we better go.
Yeah, well.
I forgot about that. Thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you, Emily, for joining and being so open and sharing your work and about Stitch Therapy Club. It sounds great. It's really exciting. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, bank holiday weekend. Hope everyone has a great time. Hope the weather picks up, fingers crossed. And yeah, keep crafting. That's it's like some sort of weird tagline.
What we say, normalise craft in public places or something. It sounds like a change.org petition. Normalise craft.
Yeah, I hope to see everybody crafting on the tube and the trains when we get back there. All right, thank you so much, Emily. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.